Hi, welcome to Live Tuesday Talks or 2, our new Instagram live show where we'll talk to many of Mount Royal's accomplished students and alumnus for the next coming weeks. From June 3 to June 4, we will be starting our grad celebration campaign for our recent students, graduates. You can follow the series through hashtag MRUGrad on Mount Royal's social media sites. My name is Mika Morales. I'm a third year broadcasting student and your host today. Our guest is Cordelia Snowdon, a recent policy students graduate and SAMRU's academic vice president. Cordelia is joining us now. Hi.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining us today. I guess how's the recent graduate life slash summer vacation going for you?
Well, not quite summer vacation. Unfortunately, had to cancel the summer vacation plans in light of COVID. But life post school is good. It still doesn't feel real yet, I think, because I still am expecting to, have to go to class on Monday. And it hasn't really sunk in yet that it's all over. But hopefully soon, because, waking up in a panic worried about missing class is not fun.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be totally weird to do it online, right? Because I feel like a lot of people are struggling doing online class because they're like, oh, I have no motivation to go to class because I'm not forced to go physically. So, yeah, I guess my first question for you would be, what made you choose Mount Royal as your school for both your social work diploma and your policy students degree? Can you tell us more about your history with the school?
Yeah, of course. So I initially chose to go to Mount Royal for social work because that's the program that my dad came to Mount Royal for many, many years ago. And we joke that when he was in school, he would bring me to class sometimes if like there wasn't a babysitter, my mom was busy. So we joke that it took me over 10 years to actually finish my social work diploma because I started my education way back in 1997. Initially I wanted to go because I had heard such great things about MRU from him, and it felt like it would be much more suited to what I needed out of a learning opportunity. I like getting to know my profs and really being able to ask questions in a comfortable environment. So that's why I came here for social work. And then it really wasn't a question of where to go for my full degree. I wished that we had the BSW, so I could have stayed and done social work more at Mount Royal. But I really looked through the programs and thought, what can I do now at Mount Royal? Because I would like to continue there. And policy studies just seemed like a perfect fit for me based on my experience in governance and what I wanted to be able to do.
Yeah, sounds good. So it sounds like you had a very, very long Mount Royal University that even started before your academic career. So yeah, again, as a Mount Royal student of 8 years, what was your experience like, especially being so involved in the school community as the SAMRU academic vice president, and yeah, as an alumni?
Yeah, I did not expect to be here for so long. I mean that in the best way possible. I thought I was gonna like kind of just do my courses, get my social work diploma, go get registered, and then work in social work. And I thought I'd be quite happy just working in group homes or doing different client-based work. And then as I started to do the practicums, and I'm so grateful that you get to do a practicum in your first year of social work here, because I got to really experience that frontline work both in practicum and then at the Peer Support Center at Mount Royal. And I realized very quickly that while I love working directly with clients, and that's always something I'm going to want to do, I get very frustrated by the systemic barriers that people face. And when you would have a client who's kind of used up all the resources available to them at that site, and then they're trying to find other options, and it's like, well, no, you're ineligible for all these number of reasons, and sometimes it seems really arbitrary. So I wanted to find a path for myself where I could do something about that, and where it wouldn't just be, seeing the same client day after day and not being able to do anything for them because of a systemic problem.
Yeah.
And then the second part of your question, if you don't mind repeating.
Yeah. Basically, what was just the overall experience like as a student and as part of SAMRU, building that community, that school community, basically? How did that feel for you?
Well, I really love the MRU community. Everyone is so welcome and just really cares about you as a person and kind of your path. So often I would have profs ask like what my plans were and then remember, like, you know, sometimes in conversation you could be like, oh, what are you planning to do? And you feel like you have the same conversation with the same person because they weren't really listening. But I would have profs follow up years later and see me in the hall and say, oh, are you still planning to do this? Or, hey, I read about something you were doing. Are you still like looking into these areas of advocacy? So I think those connections where it just felt so genuine is really what made it feel like MRU was a home, a welcoming community that I could call home and that I wanted to continuously find new ways to get involved. Part of the reason I ended up running for VP Academic was because I felt like I could because of Mount Royal. Like, I never expected to run in elections and campaign. Like, even now, I'm like, did I really do that? Like, that feels so out of character for me. I'm so like behind the scenes and don't like being out there and like doing interviews and media. Like, that's not my first choice. But I felt so empowered because of Mount Royal and because people believed in me to be able to continually get involved and, you know, not just stay at the volunteer level, but really say, what more can I be doing and how further can I give back to the community that's given me so much?
Yeah, and I feel like you've served us students. They've given us like a really strong and tight school community feeling, I guess. I'm not speaking well today. So basically, I guess you kind of answered it already, but what motivated you to run as SAMU vice president? Can you tell us about what you're passionate about? Is it just because you wanted to change the system? What was it that made you run?
Partially because I wanted to change the system because I had seen barriers that students face, but a lot of my passions are around accessibility and affordability and just these ideas that you shouldn't have to work so hard to get things like basic necessities for life, which is apparently a wild concept, and I never would have thought that before. But I really want to make it so that people don't have to fight so hard to get the things they need. And while I've been with SAMRU and Mount Royal, I've had lots of opportunities to explore what that means. Like when I first got involved, I was very passionate about sustainability and then peer support, and still am. But those were kind of what I thought of as improving accessibility and making sure people could get resources that they need. And then as a volunteer with the vice president academics before me, I started to realize things about like textbook affordability and access to the classroom and just have a more holistic approach to accessibility and not having it be, you know, is it physical access to spaces or is it access to food? No, accessibility just means whatever you need in order to live and thrive, improving the channels that make it so that you can access those things. And so I saw the opportunity to be vice president academic as a chance for me to give back and use the experience that I'd learned up till that point, but also to further see what I was capable of and say, you know, can I do this? Can I be an advocate that's out there and trying to amplify the student voice? And, you know, is it for me? And luckily I've realized that, you know, I thrive behind the scenes more so. Like I love being an advocate and being passionate, but I struggle to be kind of the person out there doing the public speaking. And so I think it's really important to normalize that and say, you know, you don't have to love taking the microphone and speaking to an audience in order to do advocacy. There's lots of legitimate ways to do that. Yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying I'm really passionate about accessibility, and that's ultimately why I got involved as the VP academic.
All right. Sounds yeah, I guess this ties into that. What did you learn from this experience as the SAMRU vice president academic?
I learned so much. I don't know how I can articulate it well. I learned so much about myself primarily, and what I want to do long term and professionally. I love meetings and governance, and kind of trying to improve governance systems by helping them take on a different lens. A big thing that I worked on as VPA was trying to remind people to look at things not just from a budgetary or legal perspective, but also to look at every decision through a mental health lens. So, some things might not seem obvious, like a scheduling policy coming forward. It might be like, okay, we want to make it easier to get to class and not get stuck in rush hour, but also what is the impact on mental health, and continuously asking those questions. So I learned that I really enjoy doing that work and being able to present an alternative view to people at the decision-making table. I've also learned, as I said earlier, I don't want to be the spokesperson. I am happy to just write the speaking notes and then hand them off to somebody and say, you go out there and talk to media. I'm good back here. But I've also learned so much about the resiliency of others and how dedicated other people are to the same causes. Sometimes you can feel a little bit like you're in isolation. That's a horrible word to use now. But when you're pursuing some of these causes, it can feel really lonely. And that, you're constantly yelling into the void, and it's not doing anything, or you're not having an impact, because sometimes advocacy takes years. Fall reading break took 7 years of advocacy. So like just one example of like, you're not usually going to see something start to finish in this kind of work. But I've made so many connections and had a chance to meet so many people that are so incredibly dedicated, that it really taught me that I'm not alone in this work. Like, even if there's no one in the room that believes in what I believe in and I'm fighting against the system, there are other people who I can find and I can connect with to get the support that I need to continue fighting the fight.
Wow, that's really inspiring.
Really?
Actually, yeah, not a lot of people actually, I think, have the same passion as you when it comes to helping other people. Um, I guess what was your last courses like, especially since you had to do it online? You said something about isolation, and I guess that's exactly what is happening right now and what you had to deal with in your last semester of study.
Yeah. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, I I struggled to finish my last classes. There were times where I was looking at Athabasca and seeing, can I withdraw right now? Because I'm not somebody who learns well online. I really need to be able to connect with people and talk about the concepts and have a back and forth, which is kind of difficult for me in an online forum, because like you can't read body language, you can't necessarily have the same cues, or just not being able to hear, and so it was a struggle to try and, as you said, like at the beginning, get that motivation to do work. But I also know, like, I recognize that I had a lot of privilege in moving to an online forum, because I had technology. I have a tablet and phone. I can connect. My biggest challenge was sharing Wi-Fi with a couple of roommates and trying to schedule when each of us would be on video calls. But that wasn't that difficult. Like, I was able to make the transition to online fairly seamlessly, but then it was actually trying to learn online that I really struggled with. And so I'm just very proud of myself for being able to get through my last few classes, because I had a lot of doubt that I would be able to finish, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to graduate. It's okay, because there won't be a convocation, so it's not like anyone will notice that I didn't graduate, and maybe I can do the course online and then I can graduate anyway, and no one will know that I didn't finish when I was supposed to. Yeah, there was a lot of self-doubt, but I managed to get through it with a lot of support from the people around me, and my profs, and so I'm very grateful for them, especially now, because this is wild times we're living in.
I agree, but you pulled through, managed to, actually learn online without giving up. So I guess it's kind of late, but congratulations for graduating. Speaking of which, obviously you're graduating in during a global pandemic. Oh, which means no June convocation. So how did you celebrate your milestone? Are you still gonna attend the graduation in fall?
Yeah, so if there is a graduation ceremony in fall, I would love to be there. I have struggled with the lack of closure that kind of this switch has had with everything, because I've started a new job and new volunteer positions, but it's all online, and so to finish school and be graduated and done and start these new opportunities without leaving my house is very weird. It doesn't feel like it's actually real right now. So I did try to do some different activities to kind of mark the occasion and recognize that yes, this is done, because when I finished social work, convocation was huge. It was amazing to be able to walk the stage, have my friends and family there, and celebrate and recognize that all this effort has now paid off, and I'm finished. And I think the loss was especially hard this time around because it was a much longer period of time. I had served as VP academic, and so like my time of study had been extended, so I'd been here even longer than you usually are. And now to be done but not be able to celebrate with family, for instance, has been really tough. So what I've done to try and celebrate is I got out my grad cap from social work and put a post-it note on it that said 2020. I have it here because I thought it'd be a funny prop. So it says 2015 on the tassel. Spoiler alert, when you graduate, you get the year. So I put a post-it note on it, and we went out and we did photos across the street by the train tracks with my roommates. We didn't break any social distancing rules. But we did a little photo shoot. We went out to get fast food and treat ourselves and celebrate and just do something to mark the occasion. If anyone's interested, I have rented this out to people because they have also wanted to do their own photo shoots. So send me a message and we'll facilitate a pickup, because, it's important to do whatever you need to do to feel like you've actually got that closure, or whatever you need, whether it's that recognition that, I'm done, I did it, like this is amazing, or just take a silly photo. Like honestly, whatever you need to feel better in this time, do it. Take care of yourselves.
For sure. And I mean, if somebody is out there wanting to reach out for you to rent your grad cap to them, I mean, I hope they give it back to you sanitized. Yeah. And what are your best memories in Mount Royal? To just after you graduated and you're looking back, what stood out to you?
Oof, that is a good question. There are so many kind of one-off moments, and a lot of them where it's like it's a funny story, but only if you were there, kind of thing. So then I'm like, oh, I'll tell this story, because I was thinking about what I should answer for this question, and I was like, oh, this one doesn't make any sense if you weren't there. But a couple moments that really stood out was this I'll do a couple, but there was when I was a peer sports center volunteer, there was an opportunity to plan our own volunteer appreciation. And so we decided to do a murder mystery, and somebody wrote like the personas and kind of the character scripts and everything. And then we all got to get together and play out this murder mystery dinner party. And I can't really imagine that being possible, well, nowadays, or at many organizations, because there's so many like liability things, and also it doesn't always feel like such a tight-knit community. But that whole evening of just running around Wickham House and trying to I was the murderer for one of the scenarios, and trying to like get away with murder and not get caught, and get people to trust me, and then shoot them in the back in the game. was a lot. I get a lot of flack. Flack's a strong word. But one time I was up on stage for a interview with the provost president and the SAMRU vice president academic, which was Schiff at the time. And they were like, tell us your best memory. And so I talked about Color You Blue, which was a paint run that used to happen where you would have, a traditional run, but then you would have volunteers with powder of blue paint and liquid paint, and then they would throw it at runners. And so I'm up on stage and I'm talking about this, and I'm like, it's so satisfying to get to throw paint at people and just hear that like thwack when it hits them. And they're like, did you really just get up on stage and say that you like to thwack stands with paint? Like, what are you talking about? So yeah, it was a lot. But the final one that I'll close on and try not to get too sentimental is I was really lucky in that I met my current partner, Nathan, way back at that murder mystery party so many years ago. And then we started dating this year. And so I would say, even with COVID, this entire year has been my best memory, because I've been able to spend time in the community that I love with someone I love. And it's just been the best way to end it off possible.
Sounds like, I mean, at least 2020 had something good for you, at least in the form of you finding the love of your life. And even though I guess you didn't have closure as for your academic career, fall convocation might still happen, so I guess you can't really give up hope yet. And I mean, it's really amazing that you finish, after 8 years of studying. I don't think I could ever do that, to put my nose in the books for that long. Oh my god. So finally, what advice can you give to students who are just about to start their Mount Royal experience, or even those who are going to their final year of study?
Mm-hmm. Oof, that is a tough question, because I don't think we can really anticipate what it's going to look like or what the experience is going to be like. So, with the limited COVID distance learning experience I have, I would kind of give the disclaimer that, any advice is through the lens of take care of yourself first, and don't try and, take on too much. Because, my advice to answer this question used to be, say yes to every opportunity, like try anything that you can, get involved, don't limit yourself in terms of what you think you're capable of, because you never know, like you might take on a volunteer opportunity and it might turn into your lifelong career, which is what's happened to me. But now I would say take on new opportunities, but always checking in and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, because it can be easy to get bogged down. And I, for many years, was involved in too many volunteer opportunities. There were many times where I was like, I wish I could just not have any extracurriculars this week and just do my studying. So definitely prioritize mental health, and do what you need to do to take care of yourself while trying new things, and really explore all of the amazing opportunities that Mount Royal has to offer, because there's really no community quite like it.
All right, and I guess congratulations once again, and thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us, Cordelia. I wish you the best in your future endeavors, your career, and if you happen to want to go back to school again, I wish you luck in everything that you do. This has been Live Tuesday Talks at 2, featuring Mount Royal's recent graduates. Make sure to follow our grad celebration campaign through the hashtag #MRUGrad. Tune in again next week. This is Mika Morales. Thank you.